Is Darrow likable? Wow. 4 of you have your videos on, and I just saw everyone kind of go,
I wouldn't say he's likable. I wouldn't even say he's redeemable. That's just my opinion.
he's not even redeemable.
I like him. He reminds me of some of the firebrands that were real movers and shakers during the 60s. They were not likable either. They were jailed.
Oh, Aaron,
I
go.
kind of like him for the most part, but I also think he's an idiot just because he's a bit short-sighted in what he's doing. Like he could have just played the long game and just taken second, third place, but no, he had a chip on his shoulder from the word go.
It's a bit of ego,
And
isn't it?
yeah, that was kind of like the only problem I had with him. It's like, okay, you know what your overall goal is to like get high enough into society. It's like you know you're going to be in this for the long haul. It's not going to be something overnight.
You've just managed
This
to
is your
piss off
first.
every single person on your way there. Yeah.
Exactly. You didn't think too far ahead. You just felt like was said earlier, it's like he just had to keep showing he was the better man. He had to keep proving himself. It's like you can do that in the long run. You can show that you're the better man. But
He's
for
just
now, in
not
this
willing
moment,
to play by the
you're just in
gold
school.
rules.
It's kind of like the example I kept using for like the last season of Game of Thrones. Where, like the first half was just like fighting Voldemort as a comparison to Harry Potter,
Yeah.
and then the second half is finding out who wins House Cup. It's like your priorities aren't
Thank you. Well
in the right place.
said. That's
Like,
really well said, because I was championing Game of Thrones. Tim, you're busting to say something. What do you want to say?
Oh, I just a counterpoint to what Aaron just said is the long game. Yes, he's got to make his way up through this gold society, right? But in order to do that, he can't take second place in the institute. He has to win because that gives you the best opportunity to move up the fastest.
No, it nearly killed him.
Well, right, it nearly killed him, and
the
that would have
proctors
been
were
the
gonna kill him.
consequence. But I think he had to win.
No,
I
that's
think he
not.
had
It's
to.
not a consequence. So actually, no. What Aaron is saying is that if he played by the Gold's rules, he would have been unmarred. He would have been, he was already getting the apprenticeship. Like he'd already gotten what he was trying to get out of it, but he just had to go one up, and he couldn't let it go, and he couldn't bow down to the Gold's way of existing. Like with this,
he was too stubborn for his own good.
yeah,
Basically.
it was definitely stubborn.
I do see what your point is. Like, part of him is like he has to win. He's like he has to get as far as he can to like, get as high in society as he can. But it's like this is just step one of who knows how many. Like he's gonna have opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. This is just him in high school, basically. This is boot camp. And he's trying to think like this will help him win the war. It's like this is just the one battle.
But I will actually argue against that. The length of time that they were in this particular challenge, people were dying left, right, and center. And it did feel like this was the rest of their life. And when I was in high school, I remember every day feeling like this was all my life was going to be. And I couldn't see outside of it because it was so consuming to be in it. And I think with this particular challenge, like Pax sacrificed himself to save Darrow. And it's just like, this is just a test, though. It's like, no, it ended up becoming life or death in that time because it was dragged on for so long. Like it's 2 human years that he was in there.
I would argue though that with Darrow, for what his actual goal is, because everybody else there was basically that, where it's like, yeah, it's life or death, something like that, but it's still school. Like this is just orientation into the real world kind of thing. Like this is just to get you an idea of where you're going to be going in life. But for Darrow, like this is just step one of infiltration to get to the end goal, and he's like going too hard into it. He's not being subtle about it.
Yeah,
I think
I
that
agree
was
with that.
my overall problem with him.
I agree with that. Avery, you were saying that we still don't know enough about the Sons of Ares. You've got a little bit of a bone to pick with the information.
Yeah, so like we're supposed to believe that he's doing all of this for this revolution, but we saw them for like 1 chapter. They like showed up and were like, hey, we just saved your life and now you're gonna go on this mission for us. And then next thing we know, he's being turned into a gold. We don't know anything about them. We don't know how long they've been around. We don't know what their actual plan is. We don't know anything, which makes me think Darrow doesn't really know anything about them either. Like, is he doing this for them? He doesn't know them.
You know what? I felt that the most once the second challenge was all done and dusted and he's got his apprenticeship. I felt that resounding, what are you doing now? Like you just got through that. You barely got through that. And now you've like gotten a position where you can now infiltrate. Do you know what you're to do? And I also thought that like when he got inducted for the apprenticeship, Arch Governor's like, do you know the words? And he just recites them. And I'm like, how did he know the words? Like he wasn't preparing for that. He had 2 years to forget everything that he learned. Trust me. I know that. I don't know. That to me is just a little bit like I felt this whole, oh my God, dude, like you're screwed. How are you going to do this? What, like, you don't have help. You don't have... Yeah! Trope! Oh my god, how did we not see this trope? The squad was the Dumbledore, the seer, the person that kind of like tells you all the information and then sends you off on the journey, usually dies. But that's the trope where it's like, you're the chosen one, you need to go and do this. Here's some information. Or now you won't have access to me anymore. And you feel that kind of sense of loss. That's what that was. That's what we're feeling, maybe, Avery. Aaron, you're still saying Darrow's motivation is too hollow. You didn't think the dropping of the, but Io, this is what Io wanted. I have to live for more. That wasn't enough for you?
Mostly because of, I don't think he really knew properly what he wanted out of all this besides just, I need to honor her memory or her last wish. But it's like, you don't really know what that meant because she didn't really know what that meant. She just had an idea and a dream and a hope for a better tomorrow.
And they weren't planning it. He only found out about this like half an hour before she's dead. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like she literally foisted an entire course of action onto him by sacrificing herself, even though it's like she had like that big moment before, she's dragged off to be hanged and all that stuff. And it's like, okay, you clearly know he doesn't want to do this. He just wants to keep his head down, be a good hell diver for his tribe, and that's it. That's his whole motivation in life. He just wants this. And it's like, nah, I got something better for you. Be a revolutionary now. It's like, no, I don't want to. Too bad. I'm dead.
Yeah, now you have to. Now I have to. I will say that there's a moment in the book where he like reflects on the amount of time that he's been in here. And he's like, I have been in this competition longer than Io and I were even married.
Like he knew Mustang probably longer than he knew Io at that point.
Nurashuka says he gets more likable as he's with Mustang more and starts thinking through issues further. Nurashuka, do you think that Mustang is basically the reason why Darrow becomes more likable? Is Darrow more likable because of the women that he's around?
Potentially. I think she's just a good influence on him because she's definitely way more mellow. I mean, they really embody the houses that they were a part of. She's, House Minerva, he was House Mars, or I guess still is House Mars, kind of. He's all about the rage. She's all about thinking through it, being more tactical, being a bit more prudent. And then just, she just has fun around him. So her having fun kind of allows him to allow himself to have fun.
Yeah.
Because he's like, oh, okay. She's kind of like making it more of like an open presence to be around.
I like that. You're right. She calms him a little bit, calms that rage. I like that. Nick, you're saying you don't think he's likable. We're sympathetic to him because of what happened with Io. Now he's basically a slave. He got too caught up in the game and became unlikable. But it's so funny because at the end of the book, Nick, at the end of the book, he's like, everyone likes me. They're so loyal to me. I look around and everyone's impressed by me. Well, I'm the most likable person ever. That was a bit jarring, I thought, to read.
If you're liked by everybody, you're usually a villain.
What? How does that make sense?
Also him then just accepting the
Or about to
archgovernor.
die, as we established with Io.
Yeah.
Mm,
But
yeah.
also him just accepting the archgovernor's like apprenticeship after like your entire motivation up to this point now has been to give this guy the middle finger for basically forcing the entire game to be rigged. That you're never gonna win. It's basically him with the laurel at the very beginning. It's like the game's rigged because he
You
didn't want to
know
accept that because
this.
he's not because it's like he wants it just to be a fair fight. That's his motivation now at this point. At least that's an honest motivation instead of just being like I just have to accept because somebody else said I should accept this.
Yeah.
It's like now it's like
I was
I'm in
given
it
my
because I
fate.
want to win. And then you're
Yeah.
accepting this guy's apprenticeship. It's like that's kind of an FU to everybody who just struggled with you to get to this point, in my mind.
Yeah, okay. I'm just trying to read the part where he's like literally like, everyone loves me. That's all right. We've gone through it enough. People basically saying he's got a big ego. He has to be a gold to beat the golds, but he took their attitudes and lifestyle. He took to it way too easily, says Avery.